It's Dr. Brown here at the Houston SPCA. I am currently in our nursery. Season period. You'll see snips and bits of 2-weekers in our nursery, 3-weekers in our nursery, and 4-weekers in our nursery. We don't have anyone too much older of that just yet. Topics today to be discussed are going to be some of the following. What do I do when I find neonatal babies out in the world? Do I immediately jump to their rescue? Do I wait and think? Other topics about if I have found that mom is not coming back and hasn't come back for a while. How do I care for these babies? And how do I even know how old it is? First starts, let's dive into the kind of concept of immediately rescuing these babies. One of the things that oftentimes I feel we want to do is jump straight to that. But the reality is that mom has to go for breaks for food in order to provide milk for these babies. So a lot of times she can take 1 hour, 2 hours, sometimes even 3 hours worth of time going to find food so that she can then nourish her babies. Because of this, we don't actually recommend that you immediately take them and try and find somewhere else for them to be. Instead, what we ask is that you will assess from a distance if mom comes back. That looks a lot like maybe observing if she has wandered around the yard a little bit, or if there's a potential mom that looks promising in your area. If you know of any cat colonies, she's likely in one of those. One of the things that nursing moms will do is they'll actually pull their babies slightly apart from the colony so that they have a safe, quieter space to essentially nest. And so she'll travel back and forth between her colony and the kittens as they age. Other things that you can do is you can actually lay, say, a powder substance like baking soda or flour, preferably flour, in a circle or a ring around those babies, or even maybe sprinkle something safe for those kittens like grass in an area so you can see if there's been a disturbance that would suggest mom's been there and back. By doing so, you kind of get a really good answer whether she's still present and taking care of those babies. The idea that mom doesn't necessarily take care of her children anymore after they've been interacted with is actually quite a myth. A lot of times that myth has arisen due to the fact that mom will stalk around further away if she sees people present, but will then kind of scurry back to her babies when she feels it's safe. So again, giving that distance, but that monitoring is really key. The other thing that we can talk about kind of during this portion of the session, this topic, is the fact that a lot of times there are really pretty fluffy coated, thriving, nice chunky kittens with brown bellies. And those kittens are likely the ones being well cared for. They're clean, they don't have any gunk or debris in their eyes. And we'll talk a bit about what it looks like when a kitten probably needs help because mom's probably been gone long enough in a little bit later chat. In the meantime, I think we have a question or two, so I'll answer some of those just based on what we've talked about thus far, and then I'll get right back to you.
Dr. Brown, if someone finds a neonatal kitten, what is the first thing they should do?
Yeah, precisely. So just pause. Don't jump to the rescue. Essentially what you want to do is you want to assess if mom could be around or if mom is just out eating. And that looks a lot like giving about 3 hours worth of time.
If you find only one kitten, should you look for the rest of the litter or only focus on that one kitten?
Assuming that you've given the right amount of time to wait, you probably want to leave that kitten for just a titch longer, only because mom may be in the middle of moving those kittens. So a lot of times she has to transport one by one, which means that if there is a litter out there, that kitten probably will be joined with it soon. Now, if the time has allotted for us to be concerned, say 2 feedings worth of a period, then you can actually collect that kitten and then begin to care for it. Yes.
If a kitten is injured, what is the next thing we should do?
Great. So, kind of segues right into the next part of the topic as well, or the conversation today. Um, if you have an injured or even a sickly looking kitten, grab that kitten and bring it in. Usually, when kittens aren't thriving, it means that mom has not had the ability to care for them, whether that means she's no longer with us, whether that means she's gone, whether that means she had some sort of reason to have to abandon those kittens. There's a plethora of reasons for why, but ultimately the sick and the injured kittens are usually the ones that are perfectly fine to pick up and immediately rescue and care for. That can look like limping on a limb, which can be a little hard to differentiate from just a normal kitten wobbling. That can look a lot like having gunk around the eyes, gunk around the nose, if you hear sneezing, if it seems like the kittens are stuffy, or even if the kitten just looks generally weak, like it's not really thriving very well, and also if it feels cold to the touch. Kittens naturally have a body temperature warmer than us, so if they feel cold to us, it's usually worth a concern.
Question. If a if a kitten is young enough to go into a nursery,
Yes.
how long can we expect them to be in there?
Yeah, quite some time. So usually when it comes to intaking kittens at societies, rescues and things, they will keep them until they're about 8 weeks of age. And then at that point, the kittens are actually ready for surgery, as long as they're the appropriate weight, which is usually about 2 pounds. So if that kitten arrives at 2 weeks of age, that kitten will be there till 8, which is a total of 6, and so on and so forth with the respective age of the kittens.
You mentioned that it's baby season. Where is someone more likely to find baby kittens or puppies, or what should they look out for just in case?
Yeah, and this kind of taps into rabbits and things as well. So especially for baby rabbits, a lot of times you find those in your yard in like a crevice in the ground or like a nice like divot in the ground, and they tend to be hidden there. Leave those because mom's probably caring for them. Now, if they seem like they haven't been interacted with over a period of time, feel free to pick them up, but a lot of times that's exactly where they're supposed to be. When it comes to kittens and puppies, mom dogs and cat moms also really like to hide under houses. Sometimes they'll even find like garages. You can see them maybe find a patio to plop their kittens at under some furniture and things. Other places as well, but those are common areas to find them.
If a kitten is young enough and we can't be able to transport it to a facility quick enough, what can we feed the kitten if mom is not available?
Great question. Great question. So the first thing is don't do cow's milk. As much as we see that on movies and things, it's actually not recommended. Instead, milk replacer for specifically felines if it's a kitten or specifically canines if it's a puppy, and it's either called puppy or kitten milk replacer, is ideal. You can find that in most of your pet stores. You can find that online if you were to order, say, via some shipping websites. You can also find it in most feed stores as well if you're in a more rural area. And with that, you'll likely need bottles and nipples as well. And those usually can be bought in those same places or ordered online as well. Alrighty, well, thank you for being here with us today to talk about kitten season. It's a very big deal here at the Houston SPCA, as I'm sure it is out there in the world with y'all as well. If you happen to see any kittens, again, just stop, wait, and think for a second and assess if mom's there. If not, bring them on into some place that's willing to help, okay? Feel free to visit us anytime at the Adoption Center. We are open from 9 to 6, and that is Monday through Saturday, I believe. All righty.